Welcome back to Lem's Cryptoverse. Today, Friday, September 30th, the ISM Chicago PMI index was released. Actually, it's called Chicago PMI. And I think, and I'm going to go to the data right here, I think this here is a canary in the coal mine. It plunged from 52.2 in August to 45.7, and economists were looking for about 52. So this is a huge indicator. No one even knows about the Chicago PMI. Everyone talks about the National ISM PMI, but I think this one has just given us a clue that there is a tipping point and that this Monday, the ISM index is going to plunge from 52.5 probably to under 50. And I'm going to show you some data and why I think that's possible. Number one, what I'm showing you here is a chart of the Chicago PMI versus the better known ISM PMI index. And you could see it, they're highly correlated with each other, number one. And I've got data going way back to the end of 2007. And that covers the great financial crisis too. And number two, if you look at it closely, you'll notice, if you look at it in detail, that the Chicago PMI actually anticipates, it leads the PMI, the National PMI index. This is why I'm telling you that Monday's ISM index, the national index, is going to decline. And this is an index that affects the market. Nobody cares about the Chicago PMI, but they do care about the ISM PMI index. And when this index declines, it could cause havoc in stock markets or treasury markets and currency markets too. Or it could cause the opposite, depending on how investors are viewing the data. So what I'm going to show you now is that number one, I think the PMI index coming out Monday is going to decline. Now I'm going to show you what happened in the past. During the 1970s, late 70s, early 80s, I should say, during those VUCA years of high inflation, you could see that inflation went up, and you can see that the treasury rate went up as Volcker kept tightening rates. But at some point, and there was a lag here, at some point, the treasury back was finally broken, and then the ISM PMI index declined, and you finally saw a decline in treasury rates. I think you're going to see that again. And in the 1980s, there was a lag because there was inflation that was sticky, something like you're seeing today. So now I'm going to show you what 10-year rates did in a lot of recessions. During the 2001-2002 equity decline and associated recession, you can see that as PMI declined, the treasury rate also declined rapidly, as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, if you look at the 2002 period, even though the manufacturing PMI index turned around and started going up, the treasury rates continued declining. And that's because unemployment was weak, the labor market was weak, and there wasn't a problem with inflation. So it's a little different this last time than it was this time. Now I'm going to show you a chart, and I'm going to make it larger so you can see it clearly, a chart for the great financial crisis period, basically the 2007 through 2009 period. And you could see something that's analogous to what we saw during the 2001-2002 period. We saw that the PMI index went down, and you saw an associated decline in treasury rates. And you could see at some point the treasury rate started plunging because the Fed broke quite a few things, right? There was a financial crisis. And so what I want to show you, that at some point when a PMI goes down, there could be a lag, but at some point the falling PMI index brings down the treasury rate, because remember, it's all related and all correlated. I'm very influenced by George Soros, and you remember his book, The Alchemy of Finance, it talks about how everything is correlated with each other. So in the beginning, it seems like things are not correlated, treasury rates are not moving, the stock market's not moving, but at some point in time, the continued tightening of liquidity and rates causes the stock market to decline rapidly, and we're seeing that now. But it causes treasury rates to decline because you get the liquidity wrecking ball, or what people like to talk about as the US dollar wrecking ball. And when that occurs, then you see a sharp decline in rates. And we already saw the beginning of that wrecking ball when we saw what happened with yields on 30-year gilts. They happened. This is in the UK. We saw a 150 basis point increase in rates, and within a week. This is probably the sharpest increase in UK rates and even US rates that we saw in history. And what happened was, as you know, the Bank of England had to pivot. Why? And you don't hear about this in the news. The reason why they pivoted is because pension plans, UK pensions, were playing in the derivative market. So basically, they had margin calls in derivatives. So it gets dangerous. I didn't even know that pensions were in derivatives, that they were doing crazy stuff. But what they were doing was, I think they were hedging, like cross-hedging. And as you know, as you may know, and I learned this in my FRM and CFA exam, is that cross-hedging doesn't work all the time. And when you play in derivatives using leverage, you get hurt. You can get really hurt. And I think we saw that in the UK pension, but I think we can see that in US pensions, because the 60-40 model, right, where you put 60% of your money or pension fund money and equities and 40% in bonds, especially treasuries, is not working because everything is declining at the same time. So thank you all for listening, and be careful out there. Just to reiterate what I spoke about earlier, I think the Chicago PMI index is the canary in the coal mine. We're going to see a sharp decline in the ISM National PMI index that's coming out this Monday, and that's going to probably cause longer-term rates to decline. And we don't know how it's going to affect stock markets. It may actually cause longer duration assets, such as cloud stocks, to do better, but we might be too early. But either way, what I think is what we're going to see in the next day or two, or maybe month, is a declining longer term rates. I'm going to see a continued inversion in the yield curve here in the US. Well, thank you all for listening, and please like us and hit that subscribe button. Bye-bye.